Right then everyone, welcome back, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, Feliz Navidad y Prospero Año Nuevo todo. Let's get into this. How you solve every murder mystery. Only if it's on film. There are a different set of rules if you are pertaining to something in a book or on a play or something like this, right? Because we need to be thinking about the medium of this, right? Over the Christmas period, you will well know Glass Onion came out, in which Benoit Blanc returned somewhat masterfully, I might add, to solve another mystery. Much like anything else, I consider these to be fun. So I set myself a challenge. Rather, Maddie set me the challenge to see if I could try and figure it out before Benoit Blanc did. Just before we delve in deep, I just want to say to everybody that's been asking, he's had a rough couple of days, but he's back home with me, and he's not doing very well, but just wanted to say thank you for your well wishes, for your love, and I know he appreciates it because there's one fuss per person, and so he's getting loads of cuddles. The first thing that you need to do in order to start tackling these mysteries is take stock of what stands out. Take stock of what stands out. When we are watching these elements, there will be certain factors that will be callbacks to other things, that will be cross-references towards other areas, that will be callbacks to other mysteries and this type of thing. When you look at the title itself, Glass Onion, I've never heard that before in my entire life, ever. I didn't even know if that was like a metaphor or something like that. So that's the first thing, the title, Glass Onion, right? And I'll be honest, Shrek was my biggest kind of connection towards this, and so I'm thinking layers, mystery, peeling it back to see what's underneath, or will you have to because it's glass and you can see right through it? Are they going to state this thing like it's obvious and attempt to show the layers even though you can see right through them all? That's the type of thing that I'm looking at right then and there. So from the start, taking stock of the title, right? Because the title has to be in reference to the film itself, otherwise people aren't going to talk about it. People aren't going to know what film you're discussing. You don't see the Marvel franchise naming something completely disconnected to what's going on. Like when you're looking at titles as well, they give clues in that way. They give clues. So when you take something like Knives Out as a title itself, if you look at the first one, most scholars that I've during my Google search, most of the scholars that research this type of lexicographers in this way, there is a disagreement, but the one that kind of stands out the most, that's referenced a number of times, the assassination of Julius Caesar. Julius Caesar? That's not real. Julius Caesar. In the stabbing, I think it was 23 times, by Brutus and the rest of the senators, to get your knives out towards your enemies, get your knives out towards that which you wanted to do away with, right? That which you wanted to get rid of. And when you think about it from that as an example metaphor, you've watched the first Knives Out, there is a little of that element, right? So you take stock of what stands out, everything, and it doesn't matter. That's the great thing about this particular point. If it stands out to you, make a mental note of it and keep that going. You build this reaction towards, that was a bit overstated, or that was a bit weird, or that doesn't make any sense here. This is starting to think like the particulars of a TV detective. So when they do their nutshelling, as Sean Spencer likes to call it at the end, when they do a roundup of everything that they've seen to bring it back towards this, they're taking stock of everything that stood out to them in that particular mystery that you were looking at. What are you struggling at, buddy? I think he's looking to try and get on his feet. Oh no, he's back down. So you take stock of what stands out. Now this is a little daunting at first, because there are those of you that will be particularly searching for what is a correct answer, what should stand out and why. All of it. Take stock of all of these elements. Point number 2, explore the causality between as many of the elements as you can. So when you're looking back at them, this point and this point, how are they related? This point and this point, how are they related? This point and this point, how are they related? Right? You need to be exploring the connections between them. take stock of this, for example. I've cited this as a reference before. Let's look at a murder riddle. So take this, for example. A man invites his friend over for dinner. They have a mashed potato and chicken nuggets, and then for dessert it's fruit, because clearly they are living the healthy lifestyle, of course. The guy cuts the apple in half, gives half to one guy, he keeps half for himself. This other guy dies, he survives. How? Why? So when we look at everything that stands out, a man invites another man over. So a man inviting somebody else over, that's motivation. That's speaking to a need to have somebody in their house. Is there a premeditation to the act? They both have mashed potatoes and chicken in that way before they move on to a dessert of fruit. Does that speak to a lifestyle? Is this part of routine for them? Can I find other elements in the house that support fruit for dessert, that support the basics in the food of mashed potato and chicken? Even down to sharing an apple if they're fully grown men. Eating one apple might sustain you by yourself, but eating half, maybe not. And the cutting is something else that stands out as well, because then that's a requirement, that's part of the routine. How then can we explore a causality between each of those elements? We started in the first state with somebody else invites somebody over for lunch. This can't be out of the ordinary. This can't be something that is a break to the routine of these two particular people. For me to invite somebody over here for lunch, that I don't invite people over for lunch. People come around for games nights and barbecues and these types of things, but to come around for lunch is a very different thing altogether. So I would need to think particularly hard about who I'm going to invite over, because if it is out of the routine in that particular scenario, then this person's already going to be like, well, this is weird, and I want it to blend in if my intention is to murder this guy. So I'm thinking about intention in this way. Chicken and mashed potatoes, very basic. All right, so I need to know this person's diet, so we need to be connected. We need to have dialogue beforehand. There needs to have been some kind of checking as to whether or not this person's going to enjoy chicken and mashed potatoes, so there needs to be some kind of conversation. This can't have been a brief friendship, a brief relationship of any kind. There needs to have been some kind of back and forth in order to understand allergies, what you like, what you don't like, what you're eating, what you're not, this type of thing. Even down to the fruit as well, and then down to cutting it in half. When you deal with things cutting it in half, there's two sides. So could some kind of poison be added to one side of the apple and not the other? How would this be added? The knife was the only other thing in there. Knives also have two sides, therefore the poison was only on one side of the knife and not the other, and the guy just kept track of which side went off. We explore, and that's just racing through that at breakneck speed. So, but this is the same thing that we're starting to do. For everybody to be called to the island, and I'm speaking specifically about Glass Onion, for everybody to be called to the island, everyone having received their puzzle boxes that are grandiose, that are complicated, that are layered, literally and metaphorically, and then for Benoit Blanc to only be questioned in terms of why he's there by Miles. There is a connection there. It's not exactly apparent at that particular stage, but to double check why somebody else out of the particular friendship circle has this invite. Well, either Miles is a particularly security conscious type of person that likes to keep himself to himself, that likes to make sure his close friendship circle has been kept as a close friendship circle, that the secrets that he's working on at that particular stage aren't going to be let out, or he needs to make sure that Benoit is going to be leaving, doesn't have reason to be there, right? So we're writing this up between these two elements as we go, and that already speaks to somebody there. And third point that will allow you to do this, don't forget that they are... What do you want, buddy? You want some love? The other puppa's going to get jealous. I didn't touch him, I swear. Don't forget that they are films. Right, it's very easy to kind of have a separation between your two goals. If your goal is to solve the murder mystery, and then you're doing your best to kind of step into the plot, step into the world, step into the points in order to try and see things through the detective's eyes. We are the viewer in that situation. We've got an advantage that he doesn't always have, right? There was one element of that particular mystery, one particular puzzle that Mr. Blanc solves very quickly. I didn't even know there was a puzzle to be solved there, right? With the arrow, that, yeah, for people that have seen it. That's because Benoit is in that universe. He's seeing things that we can't see because we're following the lens of the camera. So make sure you understand that there is a separation between those 2 points, because the film itself, it'll have motifs, themes, it will be referencing current events, the characters in there will be a reflection of current trials and tribulations and situations that are happening in the outside world, right? All of these elements, they have to be considered as part of motivational reasons for them to be doing whatever it is that they're doing. There is a Dr. Lisa Edelstein, or Edelstein, I've never heard her name said out loud before, but she wrote a book on a writer's guide to character traits, but this is from the position of a psychotherapist. Right? It's a great book. It's a great book. And when I read that the first time, I've read a ton of other character traits books after the fact, because it's a fun rabbit hole to tumble down, to understand how writers have to think about creating these believable people, but also in a partially sensationalized manner, depending upon the kind of thing that you're looking at. When you aren't forgetting that this is a film, look at the character traits that go into developing these types of things. So if you understand that somebody is egocentric, megalomaniacal, likes to walk around in Speedos and shoot his gun, not referencing any particular characters there, why would somebody do that? Answer those questions from a behavioral level if you have the information to be able to do so. And if you can't, find it out, because it's all going to be relevant, because the way that it's been written has to take care of a character like this to be motivated to do the things that they do. Come on, buddy. Drop it down. Drop it like it's uncomfortable, not like it's hot. There you go. All in all, when you add up all of these points, it becomes in itself like a fast-moving riddle. And it's great practice. It's great practice for us to start thinking about these elements critically, for us to start thinking about these concerns more logically, in a rational fashion, to try and put this forward into one cohesive problem-solving manner. Because again, it falls back into that line of, if you're following people who tell you that reading body language and non-verbal communication is as simple as this means this, then you're being lied to, because it isn't. It's nothing like that when you deal with it in the real world. So when you're watching these types of things, yes, it's a sensationalized practice, and there's nothing wrong with playtime with a purpose in that area. So you can be constantly evolving with this mystery, constantly going, okay, I have a hypothesis, I think it's this person. As it pans out, more information comes in that makes me think it's not this person, it is actually this person. Follow it through to the end. And when you think about it from that as an example metaphor, and you've watched the first Knives Out, there is a little of that element, right? But it's a mystery, sensationalized, designed for emotional qualities being antagonistic to clear reasoning. And this is how we can start to put these connections together. Following those 3 points, you'll solve any murder mystery. It might be a little challenging at first. You might need to pause it and then play through the information as well if you really like to follow it along. If you're a complete dork like this is the type of stuff that you enjoy, crack on, get it done. And there it is, folks. Follow those 3 points and you'll be on to a winner. You'll get faster, you'll get more sharper, and you'll be able to play whilst working as well at the same time, just following these things along. If you enjoyed that, drop a like, drop a comment, click on the subscription and button and the bell so you're notified every time a new video is posted. And with that in mind, I'm going to love you and leave you. I'll see you very soon.